Mr. Speaker, I rise today in favour of our government's Keeping Canada's Economy and Jobs Growing Act. Le gouvernement, notre gouvernement, a décidé de favoriser autant que possible l'économie en cette période de turbulence mondiale et obtient des résultats positifs pour les Canadiens. Par exemple, aujourd'hui, il y a environ 650 000 Canadiens au travail depuis qu'en juillet 2009. And the IMF and OECD forecast our economy will continue to be among the strongest in the G7 this year and next. When you consider what's happening around the world, that is a positive accomplishment. What's more, only recently, Forbes magazine ranked Canada as the best place in the world for businesses to grow and create jobs. Les Canadiens peuvent avoir la certitude que leur pays est en meilleure position que bien d'autres pays pour relever les défis économiques mondiaux et que le gouvernement continuera de se concentrer sur ce qui compte à leur priorité, l'emploi et l'économie. Mr. Speaker, focusing on the economy and helping Canadian families is exactly what we're doing through the Keeping Canada's Economy and Jobs Growing Act. This key legislation will ensure we can keep moving forward in implementing Canada's Economic Action Plan to grow the economy and create jobs. Ce plan a été bien reçu dans ma province, par exemple. Le Conseil économique du Nouveau-Brunswick l'a décrit comme étant, et je cite, un plan clairvoyant doté de mesures visant à aider les petites et moyennes entreprises à recruter de la main-d'œuvre. As well, Doug Northrup, H&R Block tax professional in New Brunswick and a Moncton Times and Transcript personal finance columnist, called it, and I quote again, a people's budget with new credits that will help families and seniors get more money back, end quote. Permettez-moi de souligner des mesures importantes annoncées dans la loi. First, recognizing the need for new family physician, nurse practitioners, and nurses to practice or work in underserviced rural or remote communities, we're introducing the Medical Graduate Loan Forgiveness Initiative. This plan will forgive a portion of Canada's student loans for new family physicians, nurse practitioners, and nurses who work in rural or remote communities. So starting in 2012, new family physicians practicing in such communities will be eligible for a federal Canada student loan forgiveness of up to $8,000 per year to a maximum of $40,000. New nurse practitioners and nurses practicing in underserved rural or remote communities will be eligible for forgiveness of up to $4,000 a year to a maximum of $20,000. J'aimerais aussi également attirer l'attention sur le crédit d'impôt pour les pompiers volontaires. Another important measure I'd like to highlight is a volunteer firefighters tax credit. This is a measure that is long overdue and I think recognizes the hard work of men and women in communities across the country. Volunteer firefighters play a critical role in serving communities across Canada, including in my riding of New Brunswick Southwest, often putting themselves at risk for the safety of their neighbours. And in fact, often in rural or remote communities, these volunteer firefighters are the first responders at the site of home fires or accidents on roads. Indeed, across the country, nearly 85,000 volunteer firefighters provide their services to protect the lives of Canadians, and they deserve our gratitude and support. That's why this Act includes a volunteer firefighters tax credit of an amount of $3,000. This is a positive measure that has been welcomed across the country, including in my home province, as a tool to ensure we can retain our volunteer firefighters. And the New Brunswick Association of Fire Chiefs has declared, and I quote, "The tax credit is also an important tool when it comes to recruitment and retention. We feel that retaining volunteers that are already in place is even more important because we've already invested money into these volunteers. So you want to keep them on and keep them as long as you can. Retention with some of the smaller volunteer fire departments is a big deal. And I have to say, in my riding, there are an awful lot of these small fire departments, and this support is welcome." Yet another measure I'd like to highlight is supporting infrastructure in Canada by legislating the gas tax fund transfer be permanent. Nous le savons, le plan économique d'action du Canada a permis d'accélérer les investissements fédéraux dans les infrastructures. les mesures que nous avons prises ont aidé le Canada à surmonter les turbulences économiques mondiales à court terme en dotant le pays d'infrastructures modernes à long terme. Canada's historic investment in infrastructure, like improving our roads, our bridges, or in my riding, things like wharves, will continue to support jobs and growth beyond the economic downturn. Announced in Budget 2007, the 7-year Building Canada plan consists of programs to meet varying infrastructure needs across the country, including the gas tax fund and a full rebate of the goods and services tax paid by municipalities. Through the gas tax fund, the Government of Canada provides $2 billion annually to support municipal infrastructure. Today's Act proposes to legislate a permanent annual transfer through the gas tax fund to provide predictable, long-term infrastructure funding to Canada's cities and towns. This means, in effect, this funding will be taken away from the hands of politicians, I suppose, to use it as a political football, thereby guaranteeing it to municipalities so it's there year in and year out. We all know that state-of-the-art infrastructure moves people's goods and services safely and reliably. It improves business competitiveness, allowing the economy to grow and prosper, and it also enhances the quality of life of Canadians. La Fédération canadienne des contribuables, un groupe que je connais très bien, a salué cette initiative, déclarant, et je cite, « Le fait de rendre la taxe sur l'essence permanente un engagement clair qui répond à une priorité de longue date des contribuables. Cela fera en sorte que plus de revenus tirés de la taxe sur l'essence seront réinvestis dans nos routes. » This, I think, is a good measure, one that's long overdue. A final change that I'd like to highlight is our Conservative government's commitment to return to balanced budgets through responsible spending of taxpayers' dollars. Indeed, we're committed to principled, effective fiscal management through a detailed review of all government spending. Mais, Monsieur le Président, une gestion prudente des finances signifie également donner l'exemple, et cela vaut aussi pour les partis politiques. C'est pourquoi cette loi élimine progressivement les subventions coûteuses aux partis politiques, qui forçaient les contribuables à financer les partis politiques alors que ceux-ci devraient recevoir les dons de la part des Canadiens directement. We firmly believe Canadians demand their tax dollars be treated with great care and only used in the public interest, in good times as well as in turbulent economic times. As such, I believe this move to end the political party subsidies has been and will be applauded by Canadians from coast to coast. Again, the Taxpayer Federation said, and I quote, "Eliminating the per-vote subsidy is a major victory in the fight against political welfare. This is a major win for taxpayers and for democratic reform." Another plug is from the Calgary Herald editorial. It remarked, quote, "Phasing out the subsidy also forces political parties to do their own fundraising, while asking Canadians to back up their beliefs by putting their hard-earned tax dollars behind the parties they support," end quote. And here in Ontario, Kingston Whig Standard editorial heralded as well, quote, "If people want to advance their political agenda, let them work to finance the means to get elected. If it appeals to people, they will support it. It's time politicians and their shills learned how to earn our support, not merely expect it year in and year out." Monsieur le Président, je n'ai souligné ici que quelques mesures prévues par la loi, mais il y en a de nombreux d'autres. The Keeping Canada's Economy and Jobs Growing Act recognizes the need to focus on the economy for the short and long term. I would therefore encourage all members of the House to support this key legislation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Question et commentaire. L'honorable député de Brossard-la-Prairie.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais remercier mon collègue pour sa présentation. Le membre parle justement d'investir en infrastructure. Lorsqu'on sait que 130 milliards de dollars sont en manque, donc on a un déficit au niveau des infrastructures de 130 milliards de dollars, et lorsque le ministre des Finances dit qu'investir en infrastructure a 5 fois plus d'impact qu'une réduction au niveau au niveau du taux d'imposition des grandes entreprises, est-ce que le membre pourrait expliquer pourquoi encore est-ce qu'on réduit le taux d'imposition des grandes entreprises plutôt qu'investir en infrastructure? Merci, Monsieur le Président.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I thank the honourable member for his question. Because like any good economic policy, a government has got to look at different levers when it sets the fiscal plan every single year. And you can point to countries throughout Europe. Some of them are the countries that are in the biggest trouble today, which have wonderful infrastructure, but they have lousy tax structures. And as a result of that, they don't receive the investment or the jobs or the growth that is so important to ensure we have a high standard of living. So if the member is suggesting we put all our eggs and just build infrastructure and we don't deal with reducing the tax burden on businesses to create jobs, I think he's got a thing or two to learn. Bringing down taxes will ensure job creation going forward. Ensuring we've got good roads will ensure our goods can get to and from market. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Mr. Speaker, it's always quite encouraging when you get a moment of truth that comes out from the Conservative government. And it was interesting, you know, back on October the 12th, I'd like to cite a quote, Mr. Speaker, that I'm sure my colleagues on the other side would appreciate this. And it comes from the Treasury Board President. I won't say who. We all know who the Treasury Board President is crediting much of Canada's current economic success to the actions taken long before his government came to power, telling Washington business crowd Wednesday that Canada made the right moves when faced with serious debt troubles of its own in 1995. Mr. Speaker, I applaud the member, President of the Treasury Board, to acknowledging the role that the Liberal Party played in terms of protecting Canada's economy today. And my question to the Speaker is that would he not acknowledge that there's so much more good advice that if acted on by this government that's coming from the Liberal Party, that if they were to act on it, we'd be creating a lot more jobs here in Canada, Mr. Speaker.
For New Brunswick Southwest.
Thank you. Some excellent points. No political party, no government has a monopoly on ideas, on good ideas. If the opposition parties want to propose them, we'll certainly listen to them. And look, I've written a piece in the past that credited both Preston Manning and Jean Chrétien for the good state the country's finances were in. Preston Manning in opposition for putting the heat on the government of the day under Mr. Chrétien, and Mr. Chrétien for enacting those. But why the opposition today would want to turn around on that and raise taxes and spend wildly, I don't know. I think in part that explains why they're the third party today, no longer the government. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Mississauga Streetsville.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to compliment my very learned friend across the aisle. I know his background prior to coming here was being a tax fighter, and I think he deserves to be congratulated for that, and he's bringing that skill and knowledge to the House of Commons. Perhaps he could detail in a little bit more specific way the importance of targeted tax cuts and tax credit initiatives that are in this piece of legislation, why those are important in just affecting general behavior in different sectors that actually help us build and grow the economy and for employers to retain and hire new people. Why are targeted tax credits like this such an important piece?
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Thank you, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. Over the last 5 years, our government, particularly on the personal income tax side, has used a number of tax credits and incentives to try to encourage certain activities. And I think the example of our volunteer firefighters tax credit is a perfect one, whereby we're trying to ensure that these organizations continue to exist throughout the country, thereby, I think, saving government's money from having to fill in where these volunteers suddenly to disappear. Similarly, we've seen other measures on tradespeople, for example, to lower their taxes bite in their day-to-day pursuit of jobs and opportunity. But let's not forget, when it comes to business taxes, we've actually picked up on reforms that began by the Liberal government, which is to keep putting the business tax down to 15%, a broad tax that favors all businesses in this country and encourages them to come here and create jobs.